Minister, the latest Environmental Protection Agency's report on wastewater has highlighted major issues with poorly treated sewage continuing to harm our quality of rivers, lakes and coastal waters. It's incredibly worrying, the report revealing the damage being done to our waters. 51% of Ireland's sewage was treated to the European standards set to protect our environment, well below the EU average of 90%. There are areas across the country that fail the EU treatment standards, but half of them are in Cork. Clonakilty and Kinsale in my constituency, as well as Carrigaline, also Cove, Rathcormac and Mitchelstown. Then there are the 32 areas where raw sewage is just being discharged into rivers and the sea, including Castletownbere in Cork Southwest. Unless you lived in or visited these areas, I think most people would find it unimaginable that in 2022 we're still dumping raw sewage directly into our waters. This is symptomatic of underinvestment in water infrastructure. There are many issues that Irish Water needs to address, but the Minister can't pass the buck. Issues with wastewater treatment is one of the major matters I deal with in my office, from the lack of a proper support system in Shannonvale to malodours from wastewater treatment plants in Kinsale, Castletownbere and Belgooly. Each time I bring it up here or ask a PQ, I'm told it's the responsibility of Irish Water, allowing the Minister to wash his hands. That's not good enough, because ultimately the Minister for Housing, Local Government and Heritage has the responsibility for water quality. This hypocrisy was most clear earlier in the year when Minister Darragh O'Brien visited Shannonvale to see the impact of the lack of proper infrastructure. A formerly beautiful park in the centre of the village is now a dangerous polluted area due to the inadequate wastewater system. I tried to ask a PQ following up on his visit, but it was disallowed because he apparently has no responsibility for Irish Water. So he was simultaneously implying to the community that he can do something, and then he apparently has no role in resolving it afterwards. Irish Water has an operational function, but the issues raised in the EPA report relate to capital investment, which is definitely the government's responsibility. They clearly state that based on current investment levels, it will take at least 2 decades to get all treatment facilities up to standard. The EPA has found that it will take a multi-billion euro investment, and based on current investment levels, at least 2 decades to get all treatment systems up to standard. That is simply unacceptable. Some areas in Ireland are looking at wastewater below health and environmental standards being released well into the 2040s. There is a clear need for accelerated investment. Each year, the EPA produces these reports, and there is slow progress, but it is shockingly slow. New plants, such as Castletownbere, have come online, but they have their own problems. Again and again, in terms of education, disability services, healthcare and now water services, I have to point out the importance of investment in public services rather than giving tax cuts to wealthier people. Every year the government chooses not to invest in water infrastructure, and it's another year that our waters are polluted. And this report only deals with wastewater. That's not to mention the areas in Cork Southwest and across the country where drinking water facilities are at capacity. Minister, are you going to provide the necessary funding to help communities such as Kinsale, Clonakilty and Castletownbere?
And again, thank you for raising this important issue on the EPA's urban wastewater treatment in 2021 report. Having a well-functioned and resilient wastewater treatment infrastructure that will protect our environment is an issue of national importance, and I do appreciate the Deputy's concern regarding this matter. Since the 1st of January 2014, Irish Water has the statutory responsibility for all aspects of water services planning, delivery and operation at national, regional and local levels. Irish Water's primary function is to provide clean, safe drinking water to customers and to return wastewater safely to the environment. In turn, the EPA holds Irish Water to account over its environmental performance. The EPA is responsible for monitoring and enforcing compliance with the necessary quality standards for the collection and treatment of wastewater discharges. As part of Budget 2023, we secured funding of over £1.65 billion to support water services, with £1.56 billion of this allocated to Irish Water. This overall investment will deliver significant improvements in our public water and wastewater infrastructure. In 2021, Irish Water invested £367 million in wastewater, which is the highest annual level to date. Many serious challenges remain, which will take significant investment. As you pointed out, the EPA has identified in this report the priority areas where Irish Water must target available resources to deliver improvements where they are most needed and will bring the greatest environmental benefits. Irish Water is also working to ensure that new capacity is made available for household and for commercial development. Irish Water's investment will deliver significant improvements in our public water and wastewater services, support improved water supplies right across Ireland, including rural Ireland, and support a range of programmes delivering improved water quality in our rivers, lakes and marine area. It is key to addressing Ireland's shortcomings in water and wastewater infrastructure, including compliance with the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive. 93% of Ireland's public wastewater plants are compliant with the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive. The vast majority, 9% of total wastewater load that is not yet in compliance with the directive requirements, comes from one treatment area, the Ringsend Wastewater Treatment Plant serving Dublin and the surrounding area. Irish Water is currently investing over €500 million in a staged upgrading of Ringsend Wastewater Treatment Plant, which will deliver a capacity to treat the wastewater for a population equivalent of 2.4 million people while achieving the standards of Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive by 2025. Irish Water also has plans in place to address any outstanding issues at the remaining non-compliant plants. I think that 90% that you speak about, the 40% of that is Ringsend, which will be brought up to standard by 2025. Since 2014, Irish Water has eliminated 60% by volume of all raw sewage discharges through targeted investment in new sewage infrastructure, and are on target to eliminate nearly all remainder by 2025. This work represents an investment in 21 areas where there was no sewage treatment before. There are currently urban wastewater pressures impacting on 208 water bodies, and this equates to 4% of water bodies nationally where urban wastewater improvement measures were required to achieve water framework directives. Objectives. Works are complete to address urban wastewater pressures on 12 water bodies, and projects are progressing in 61 further water bodies. Another 63 water bodies have assessment underway, and for the remaining 72 water body assessments will be initiated in a rolling programme to be completed by 2029. Collection works will also be needed to improve and adapted to climate change. However, these projects are complex, particularly in cities that are so will take considerably longer to address. The number of areas on EPA's priority action list has been reduced by a third since 2017, and Irish Water plan to complete works on all plants on the list by 2030. We obviously have a river basin management plan, public consultation, and that has to be an ambitious plan. And certainly the pressures that we're seeing in terms of receiving bodies of water, the issue of urban wastewater is now a reducing one, where agriculture is taken over as the most significant. So there are significant improvements being made, but absolutely accept your points in relation to some of the areas that still are outstanding.
Unfortunately, that's the exact stock answer that I've come to expect. This is a pressing health and environmental issue. Raw sewage and poorly treated wastewater impacts on local ecology and has public health implications. Wastewater in Kinsale and Clonakilty, two of Ireland's major tourist destinations, has failed to meet EU treatment standards, and then raw sewage is being discharged into picturesque Castletownbere. These areas need government investment, not you passing the buck to Irish Water. You need to provide the investment and then meet with Irish Water management to ensure that the projects are actually prioritised. The EPA report clearly warns that at current rates, we are still decades away from resolving this issue. The problem is even more nuanced, as the new plant in Castletownbere, similar to ones in Kinsale and Belgooly, have malodours coming from them. So while somewhere like Castletownbere is held up as an example of success in this report, and Irish Water out on the media afterwards, and for locals it's awful, I think that just gives an example of where we're at. Related to this is the exorbitant connection costs. So at standard cost for a single household is almost 2,300. It's even more depending on the length of the connection, and SMEs can pay multiples of that. So it's just nonsensical to spend millions on a treatment plant and then have families unable to afford to connect to it. Again, that comes down to funding, not Irish Water. I think that the least we should be able to expect from the state is a safe and dependable water system that can guarantee safe drinking water and a healthy environment. That should be a government priority, not an issue to just pass on to Irish Water. Communities across Cork, South West and across the country need investment. It's up to the government to provide that.
And I think Wholeheartedly, Deputy, and certainly it's not the case that we're talking about decades. We can't take decades. It has to be resolved, and certainly Irish Water have plans in place for the 32 areas that were assigned in the EPA report. Those plans will be brought forward, and the investment that government has brought in over the last number of years is record investment. We are front-loading that investment. It's critically important we do so from a human health perspective, a biodiversity perspective, and in terms of development of these small urban settlements. If there are specific issues I know that you have brought to the attention of the Minister, certainly we will work with Irish Water on those. And the Minister has been deeply committed to ensuring that we achieve these targets and holding Irish Water to ensure that they are going to meet those targets. There has been historic underinvestment, and we accept that by successive governments. But I think that investment is being addressed. The structural issues around Irish Water and its establishment, all of that is being addressed as well. And I suppose, secondly, the area that I have a hand in around the river basin management plans, we have to ensure that we get these water bodies up to good standard as well. So it's critically important from all of these perspectives that we address it. And there's no doubt, and I am aware of the issues around Clonakilty and other parts of West Cork that have to be addressed, and perhaps come under increasing pressure, particularly during the summer months from tourism season as well, that we have to have that capacity built in and future-proofed. And in that regard, we will continue to work with Irish Water. I think the EPA report is really useful in terms of highlighting where the challenges lie, but we are confident that Irish Water has the capacity and the ability now to address the challenges, particularly for these smaller settlements, which are equally as important as the Ringsend plant or any of the larger urban settlements.